Okay, there's three main ways to cook your food. You have gas, you have sticks where you can build a fire, and you have Isbit solid fuel. I used to do cat cans, the little alcohol-filled cat cans and liquid heat. I've gotten away with that just because the potential for mess and spillage is just too great. So I went away with that. A little stick fire is just as good as a cat can. It's just not as quick. Almost everybody is going to go to the butane, isobutane. Of the three I have there, it's the only one that you can use for the entire trail is the stove and the isobutane. The rest of them can't, because you got it in the Park Service and all. You got to have a positive shutoff valve. Everybody knows that's a positive shutoff valve. There's no way to turn that one off or that one off simply and easily. You can put the fires out, but there's no way to really just shut them off and stop the heat. Okay, I have my Gregory plate here just for demonstrations, but what I have is basically three methods of starting a fire. I got the Magic Fire Sticks by Bic and Scripto. I got a ferro rod, and I've got the Stormproof fireproof matches. I've been using ferro rods so long that I never even try the matches anymore. I had to go buy new ones because my other ones are so old that the sulfur just went bad on them. Bic lighters, everybody's favorite. By far the most convenient for most farms. They work all the time, and they'll light every time. If it doesn't light, you have your spare that's in a plastic bag. Why in a plastic bag? First time you make a river crossing, everything gets wet, including your Bic. This will light right away. This will take a long time, sometimes days, to relight. Sometimes it takes minutes, but sometimes it just won't light for days because if all that gets soaking wet in there. Anyway, Bic lighters, by far the common. Ferro rods, they'll light everything. Everything here, the ferro rod will light. And I'll show that. Okay. Stormproof matches. It gives you 2-minute burn time. And it just burns on down. It'll burn in anything, but that's how long it'll burn. You better have your fire lit by then, because then it's out. That's why I don't like those anymore. Last ditch emergency, yeah, a paper match or a stormproof match. But by far the most popular are Bics and ferro rod. I would highly suggest everybody go to the store, go to Walmart, go to a sporting goods store, buy the cheapest one you can find, and practice with it. Doesn't take much for the technique. It takes very little for the technique, actually. And I'll explain that in a little bit. But here we go. The different fire methods. We have the Isbit, just a solid chemical fuel stove. You don't want to leave it in the package, obviously, and you set it down either in an Isbit burner or a stove similar. Some people take it, they use it as a fire starter for a twig stove or a twig fire, and they'll get it going for that. They have different methods of stove, but a metal stove or the start of fire, a lot of people use the Isbit. Easy with this, you light it like that. Takes that much to get lit. Yeah, it's broke on me, yeah. And it just went out. The reason I'm not a real fan of Isbits is this. Because you got to set it like that, and you just got to let it go until you can see the flame, then you set it down. Then you blow it out. Anyway, that's an Isbit. A lot of guys like them, and if you're a fan of them, I'm not putting them down. It's just that they're a little bit more difficult to use. To light your solid fuel stove using a ferro rod, use a little bit of cotton batting, put it on there, and you just fire away, light up the cotton batting. Just like that. You let it burn away. and you get that solid fuel. You got to be really careful to let that solid fuel get really set. Any kind of little breeze will pull it out. And there's your solid fuel. There's your Nisbet. It's a little breezy here, so I'm just not going to burn. I'm not going to let it burn very long. And that's how you do your solid fuel. And you can put it out. But your solid fuel's bit. Make sure all my fire's out. Yep. And that's doing it with a ferro rod with solid fuel. Not as simple as with a Bic, but can be done. Gas stove, here we go. Got this. Lights every time. Go it on there. Lights every time. Now, if Mr. Bic, the magic fire stick, doesn't work, you forgot to bring this, which don't forget to bring this, but if you forgot to bring this, and this has been sitting in water for 4 hours, lights it right every time. A little bit of gas, ferro, lighting. Doesn't take much. There it is again. I don't know if you can see it with the stove, but it's there. Trust me. Okay. Ferro rod. Very simple. And you can't really break it. Yeah. Okay. What I did is I set up my start of my little twig fire. Remember, I said remember, it's a twig fire. You're just trying to cook your food. You're not trying to light the night. And you don't need much more than twigs like this. You need half a dozen or a dozen of these twigs, and that's all you need. What you do is to light the fire, everybody can stick a Bic on there and light a piece of cotton. Not hard. But if you look at it, I got the ferro rod placed like this. And that's how fast it lights. The cotton's going. I want to make sure my twig fire is going to go. It's going to burn over that cotton. It only take a couple of minutes, to be honest with you. And you got to get your twigs started by that time. But these little twigs will fire up. I'm not trying to make a big fire on it. I'm just trying to demonstrate. So I'm not going to make anything big. Big by meaning a twig fire. You know, hold it like that. And it'll start burning. Start catching on. And you just be careful and you feed it gently. You feed it gentle twigs, just little tiny things until you get it bigger. You don't want a fire bigger than this, and you don't want the flames higher than that. You want to build a bed of coals. Everybody's seen I got my Isbit going here, cooking my food. Everybody's seen their camp pots with all that black sooty junk all over it. It's because you're putting it over fire. All the aromatics, all the grease, all that stuff's burning out. The coals, just as hot, but no damage and no soot, minimal soot, to the stove. Let this burn down, get it burned down into coals, and once you get it into coals, then you cook your food, and you don't have to worry about the pot, the outside of the pot getting all dirty and sticky. And that's all it takes for a cotton fire. This is just cotton batting I took out of one of my medicine bottles. Some people take this, they'll take it, or get a cotton ball, and they'll dip half of it into melted wax. And then they fire it up, and the wax will burn for 4 or 5 minutes. Plenty of time to get your little fire going. And like I said, you don't want it bigger than that. It's just enough to cook your food. You want a nice little coal, a bed of coals, cook your food. By the time you're done cooking your food, it's easy to put out. You don't have all the coals to deal with, and it's done. And that's how you put just a little twig fire going with cotton and a ferro rod. Wasn't hard. Took 2 strikes. That was it. Of course, a Bic, the magic fire stick, it would have taken that. Okay, a little bit of a change is if you want to buy them pre-made, these pre-made fire starters, they're really great. You just got to take the ends and you just pull it apart. And all it is, it's pre-impregnated cotton with some kind of accelerant in it. Go like that. You set it on there. And you set your twig fire around it, just like you did on cotton. You set up your twig fire. You set these guys up to where it's going to burn. You don't block it off like that, so the sparks won't ever get to it. You have that all set to go. Again, you have your ferro rod. Most of you won't take this knife. It's a little True hikers don't tend to bring a knife this big. It's only that big. It's only 4 fingers long, 4.5. But you will bring usually a folding knife. Oddly enough, they're about the same size. It's just that this one folds. The bad thing is, buy this knife at the store, you can't make it arc. You can't make it spark. See? You can take the sharp edge and you can make it spark. Reason being is these edges are rounded, so you don't, okay? That's why it won't work. In a pinch, in an emergency, take your sharp end of your blade and look, and you're burning. All right? Now set your twigs on there. This will burn. A little fire in there. Yep, I put it out. Well, try again. That's what happens when you get too overzealous. There's your flame right there. Protect it so the wind doesn't blow it out. Let it get going. And you're catching on your twigs. It's burning right here. And you set up little twigs. And this is it. This is your twig fire. Any true bush crafter, not a bushwhacker, any true bush crafter knows this. Most of your thru hikers, they know this too. It's common enough out there. But yeah, you start your twig fire with these, and then if you're going to have it bigger, then you put these guys on. I am not. This is only demonstration. Like I said, your fire should only be this big around. Your flame should never be higher than this. If it gets up here for a minute, up higher in a minute, no. But for the most part, the flame should be this high. You get that bed of coals going, and you cook off your bed of coals. Okay? If you cook, my Esbit's all out, by the way. If you cook, and I only got it steaming, so it got 700 milliliters lukewarm. That's the other reason why I don't like Esbit's. But if you cook here, you're going to get nothing but soot and crap on the bottom of your stove. Okay? What you can do, build your little twig fire in here and keep it going. Build the coals up in here, right? That way you don't have to worry about anything on the ground getting lit or anything like that. Different methods. There's also the wood-burning stove, where they have actual wood-burning stoves. If I were to go like here, I would go maybe here and get it going, but I don't want to do any of that. Make sure you put it all out. Make sure you can put your hands on it. It's getting a little windy, so I'm putting everything out, and I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to take the risk of having a big fire in a windy area. If you can put your hands on it, that's out good enough to where you can leave it, because you can put your hand on any part that you can find and nothing's burning. A common mistake is if this is still burning, a common mistake everybody goes and they takes their fire and they'll take a stick and they'll put everything back into a nice little tiny pile, and it's burning and it's just coals. That's called banking your fire. Banking your coals. That means it's going to burn all night long or for hours and hours. If you bank your fire and leave it, you're going to start a forest fire. One of these days, you're going to start a forest fire. That's the single worst thing you can do, leaving a fire. You spread it out. Okay, if you can't touch it, if it's too hot to touch, it's too soon to leave. Okay, most through hikers will not bring a sheath knife. It's only like 4.5 fingers long, and it's a $14 Mora knife from Sweden. Very nice knife. It's not full tang or anything like that, but it's for a through hike, it would work really nice because it's very light. Okay, this is what most people bring. Most through hikers will bring a folding knife. This is a CRKT M16 model. And sometimes you'll bring smaller knives, which is fine. There's no heartache with a smaller knife. I just tend to bring both of these because I can't get into one knife yet. Someday I will. But what happens is, when you purchase these knives, they're pre-sharpened here, and they're pre-sharpened here. Now, if you look here, you see I re-edged this entire blade. Okay? I also took the back, if you can see, and re-edged it, because this is curved when you first buy it. Okay? For a good sheath knife, for a good pocket knife, to be able to use a ferro rod, you have to file this down or sharpen this down to where it's flat. You want it to be totally square, 90-degree square on each edge here. That way, when you put the edge on, you'll get a spark. Flat, you're not getting anything. You're using the edge to get a spark. On the blade, it's already an edge, it just goes. I'll have to fix that. Store-bought, if you've done nothing to it, it's never going to spark. I mean, you scrub on that thing all you want. Flip it around to your edge. Okay? So if you do decide to bring one of these, your pocket knife, your knife, sometimes it comes with a little tool to do this, but make sure that this is filed towards 90 degrees, nice and flat, to where you can get an edge off of this thing and get a spark. In a life or death emergency, you use that blade to get your fire started, because if you're freezing, do what you need to save your life. Or if you find anybody else, you got to get a flame started, you got to get a fire started, do what you need to. Preparation would be, though, is get this nice and filed, nice and sharp. Not sharp cutting, but 90 degrees on each side. 90 degrees on each side like this, so you can throw a spark. Not hard to throw a spark. You do have to put some pressure on it. That's why I mentioned, go to the store, buy a really cheap one for $6, $10. Practice on your barbecue. And you'll see how simple that this method actually gets. You see that it burns really hot, but it goes away. So, in the long run, what's best, a ferro rod or a magic fire stick? Well, yeah, I'm bringing a magic fire stick. This is my backup. If you choose not to bring this in a plastic bag as your backup. And make sure both work before you put them in your backpack.